Well, no trade after all. So we're back after a week-long break. Hello, darkness, my old friend. You've come to talk with me again. Sens lose 5-2 to the Boston Bruins.
How are the young guys now? I finally did it! I scored again! Quit taking penalties!
The Sens are gonna blow this game. Way to tie up the stick in front. Not. Well done. Just well done.
You better believe we're gonna be having a penalty chat at the end of this one.
What a time to be alive! What a long and brutal season that was.
This team, man!
Another game, another blown third period, and another loss to the Bruins. You know what though? This is a loss I could actually deal with. The Sens should have never been in the game with the Bruins, but heading into the third period, they had a legitimate chance to win. It was not nearly as bad as I expected. Even coming to the third period tied, I still figured the Bruins would find a way to win, so it's pretty tough to be upset with that. As always though, let's kick things off with lineup changes. In the days leading up to the game, there was some question about whether Thomas Chabot would be able to play through a neck injury. He was, so the Sens rolled with the same winning lineup as they had Sunday night against San Jose. That meant Ryan, Bodker, and Golubeff were the scratches, and Andy got the start and goal. The winning lineup can't keep things rolling though, as the Sens take an early penalty, and the Bruins make them pay. With the Bruins on that power play, Torrey Krug pulls an Erik Karlsson and fires a slap pass all the way down the ice. It hits the end wall. David Pastrnak is the first one there. He picks it up at the circle, goes backhand, forehand, tucks the puck by the pad of Craig Anderson, and the Bruins lead 1-0. Just a clever play by the Bruins to catch the Sens napping. Gotta give the Bruins credit for an incredible set play. Sometimes these kinds of things happen. Unfortunately, it did on this one. Then not too long later, a really scary incident. Scott Sabourin goes to hit David Backes on the Bruins blue line on the far side of the ice. Just as he's about to hit him, Backes braces for the hit. The pair of them bounce heads off one another, and Scott Sabourin is out on his feet. Because he's out, he's not able to brace the fall and he lands face first on the ice. Sabourin then laid there motionless in a pool of his own blood for several minutes. Finally, after what felt like forever, but was only 10 minutes, and I say only loosely, the medical crew was able to load Sabourin onto a stretcher. And just before they're able to wheel Sabourin out of the building, the benches on both teams empty as both teams come over to wish him well. It just goes to show what hockey culture's really like. You have David Backes, who did nothing wrong, who's basically in tears. And you have the Bruins, who aren't really a teammate of this guy, who come over to wish him well anyway. The Bruins are one of those teams that you really have to hate. But after a gesture like that, how can you hate them? That was just really classy. And thankfully, right as they're about to wheel Sabourin off the ice, he's able to give a thumbs up. I don't know about you, but I can't even begin to describe how happy I was to see him do that. I was genuinely really scared. This was bad. I really hope he's able to make a speedy and, more importantly, full recovery. And judging by this post, I'd say he's at least doing okay, which is incredible news. Get well soon, Sabourin. And speaking of get well soon, that brings me to David Backes. This was not his fault. There wasn't a single thing he could have done differently, and yet he feels like he's the guilty party. He was visibly upset on the ice, and I don't care if you like David Backes or not. That's just not fair to him. Finally, after the medical crew was able to take Sabourin off the ice, Backes left the game, and he never returned. I figure there's probably one of two reasons for why Backes never came back. He was ruled out of the game for an upper body injury. So reason number one, he just couldn't get his head in the game and just never came back. Honestly, that's what I'm hoping it was. The first reason's pretty easy to get over. Backes could go visit Sabourin in the hospital and let him know that he really didn't mean to. which he doesn't have to because it's pretty obvious he didn't mean to do that. And Sabourin could then crack a joke or something and let him know it's okay and help Backes at least try to feel a little better. It's never nice to hurt somebody, but it's much easier to reconcile it if the injuries don't turn out too bad, you didn't mean to, and you're easily forgiven. In this case, I wouldn't be surprised that Sabourin doesn't feel a little bad for Backes himself. Like, Backes really didn't do anything wrong and really showed that he really felt bad about something that was totally out of his control. And reason number 2, and this one is much more worrisome. The two players banged heads, and David Backes has a significant concussion history. I really hope this isn't tied to a concussion. After doing a little bit of digging, it sounds like it might be a concussion too. Man, you hate to see that. I really hope David Backes is able to recover quickly and fully himself. It's really a terrible break. My thoughts are with both of those guys over the next few days. It's going to be really tough. And now, we have to get back to hockey. How are we supposed to do that? Somehow, after a few minutes of sloppy hockey as both teams work their way back in, we finally get back to playing hockey, and the Sens tie the game. Duclair misses the net on a 3-on-1. The puck goes around the boards and lands on the stick of Logan Brown. He goes across the ice back to Duclair. He one-times another shot. This time he doesn't miss, as he roofs it over Tuukka Rask, and just like that, we're tied at 1. What a nice little feed from Logan Brown. I keep saying it, and it's true. Logan Brown is an NHL player, and he needs to stay in Ottawa when the Sens get fully healthy. Unfortunately, speaking of health, Logan Brown suffers an upper body injury on his very next shift and does not return to the game. The good news, though, is the Sens say that Brown was kept out of the game for precautionary reasons, so it sounds like it isn't a major injury. Now down 2 forwards, the Sens head to the second period, tied at 1. But not even 2 minutes into the second period, the Bruins top line feeds on the Sens. Ottawa loses a 3-on-2 puck battle along the boards. The puck comes out to the slot to David Pastrnak. He dekes out Craig Anderson and then feeds Patrice Bergeron, who's got a wide open net. Bergeron deposits the cash in the goal, and the Bruins lead 2-1. So much for great end zone coverage. The Sens then get a gift, as Connor Brown banks one in off Tuukka Rask, and we're tied at 2. That's Brown's second in as many games, and hopefully gets the former Leaf going, but yikes. That was brutal. Unfortunately for the Sens, that brutal goal seemed to wake up Rask as he was excellent the rest of the way. And a large chunk of that excellent play from Rask came a few minutes later as an interesting sequence gave the Sens all kinds of power play time. Carlo hooks down Duclair, and on the same stoppage Marchand spears DeMello with the Sens already on the power play. Somehow the refs decide that Marchand should have Carlo's hooking penalty and then only give him 4 minutes for spearing. So instead of Ottawa having a 5-on-3 power play for 2.5 minutes with another power play for 3 minutes after that, they end up with 30 seconds of 5-on-3 time and 5.5 extra minutes of power play time. Just terrible execution by the refs. These were not called properly at all. One of the things referees are taught at a very young age is an acronym called MOTTO, which helps decide who gets a penalty and when, and who serves what penalty to help keep the game as quickly moving as possible. Well, MOTTO only works if a guy gets a penalty. You can't MOTTO your way into a guy getting a penalty if he didn't get it and it was somebody else. How they took Carlo's hooking penalty and gave it to Marchand is absolutely beyond me. And despite some excellent chances, with the Bruins only down 1 player instead of 2, the Sens can't find the back of the net as Rask is excellent and the Bruins stave off all 6 minutes of shorthanded time. And with Ottawa failing to score, we head to the third period with the two teams tied at 2. And shockingly, Ottawa even deserves to be tied at 2. It's not like the first 2 periods were a whitewash. But the Bruins come out in the third and absolutely take over the game. Heinen forces a turnover in the neutral zone. He chips one into the Sens zone. DeBrusk wins the battle, leaves it for Heinen. He takes it hard to the net. DeMello is way too soft in front. Heinen tucks it by the pad of Andy, and it's 3-2 Bruins. Another just brutal defensive zone effort. That play by DeMello was just awful. Then a few minutes later, Pastrnak fakes going behind the net, feeds Marchand with a backhand cross-ice pass, he fires one in the empty net, and it's 4-2 Bruins. And the rout is on. Then the Sens turn the puck over in their own zone. Heinen feeds to Brusk, who's wide open in the slot. He one-times one by Andy, and it's 5-2. You know, I was staying pretty positive throughout the game. I was really happy with a lot of Ottawa's efforts. I wasn't even all that upset with their power play, but this goal set me off. It's their defensive zone coverage. It's just so bad. That and the fact that they just can't keep themselves from turning the puck over. Thankfully though, it doesn't get any worse, and Ottawa falls 5-2 to the Bruins. What a brutal end to a decent effort. As always though, let's get into good news, bad news. Ottawa didn't get killed by Boston, but still lost, and that is the good news. Ottawa was in the game, which is great, but didn't get a point, which is huge. I've just decided the NHL season is over. Sorry NHL, but the playoffs are starting tonight. If that were actually the case, the Sens would have their first and second best odds at the draft lottery. Ottawa is 31st, San Jose is 30th. Please stay that way. Those draft positions are starting to look better and better, and a big part of that is the fact that Ottawa played well, but didn't get any points last night, and that is the good news. Now, for the bad news. Ottawa still has a ton of work to do in their own end, and that is the bad news. Look at the goals Ottawa gave up last night. Almost every single one of them was made easier by the fact that the Bruins were left uncovered by the Sens, which is made even more frustrating by the fact that Ottawa just had a week off and clearly didn't work on it hard enough. I know it's a work in progress, but I didn't see any progress. Ottawa's end zone play was terrible last night, and that is the bad news. Next up, the Sens head to Madison Square Garden on Monday night to take on the New York Rangers. The contest will be the second of the season between the two teams, after the Rangers beat the Sens 4-1 in Ottawa in the second game of the season, thanks in large part to a 4-point game from former Sen Mika Zibanejad. Hopefully, this one goes better. That's it for this video. Hit like if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with anybody you know, and today's question is, if Logan Brown is out long term, or for any length of time, would you call up Josh Norris? Norris currently has 3 goals and 7 points in 10 games for the Baby Sens, and is third on the team in scoring, so would now be a good time to call him up? Let me know down below what you think, and we'll see you Monday night when the Sens visit the New York Rangers.